Now, the past couple of days, we have seen a lot more fans that have been really heavily criticizing The Mandalorian Season 3, especially exactly how all the episodes really seem to have no consistency and no focused, aimed storytelling, is how a lot of fans feel to this very day. We also have a lot of fans that, like and enjoy Season 3 of The Mandalorian, but it really seems to be extremely mixed, where the majority of the hardcore fan base is just not happy with this direction. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, Jack Black and Lizzo. This whole entire situation, I know a lot of fans did not like this particular episode with Captain Bombardier in the actual, installment of Mando Season 3. Now, we do know that one episode in and of itself, a lot of fans considered it to be filler, basically. I will say, though, the one thing that was great about this episode, we gotta really point out the fantastic acting of no other than, of course, Doc Brown himself, aka Christopher Lloyd. He did a fantastic job being like this loyal supporter of Count Dooku and how he was a visionary. I really loved that. That was a very interesting role for him, and it really worked. It's crazy how well Christopher Lloyd can pull off a sinister-driven character. But moving on, everything related to Favreau and his stance on the whole Lizzo and Jack Black backlash is something that I think is very interesting among the fans, because John touches base on everything related to the backlash and the origins of these characters in The Mandalorian Season 3, and I think a lot of fans are going to find this to be very surprising in, of course, The Mandalorian Season 3 and what Jon Favreau had to say about all of this. Now, on top of that, alright, given that we have Jon Favreau handling a lot of projects and getting ready to make new announcements this September for upcoming Star Wars films and shows, Favreau recently responded to the backlash of Mando Season 3 and also shed light on the truth of the cameos of Jack Black and Lizzo. Favreau went on to state the following. Well, the whole Jack Black and Lizzo appearance segment was actually an idea that myself and Dave had came up with, but our vision did not work so well with others. We had this idea that we would bring in celebrity cameos under one condition, and that is, of course, if we could really make them into characters, where they weren't so easy to guess who was playing them, but at the same exact time giving fans a fun guessing game as to who it was. Kathy felt it wasn't a good idea to completely make up Jack Black and Lizzo, and decided she wanted to present them to be very and easily familiar as their own celebrity appearances, to the same, of course, ways that fans would easily recognize them. And some ideas like making him a part of the pirate gang was our idea for Jack Black originally. Now let me stop right here about what Jon Favreau is saying. Now, what's interesting about this is that we know that Kathleen Kennedy came up with how the celebrity cameos were going to be used in Mando Season 3, but as it turns out, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came up with the idea of bringing Jack Black and Lizzo into the equation, but what they wanted to do was they wanted to make them far less recognizable, so they wouldn't just seem like themselves playing, as Jack Black and Lizzo in that particular episode, because a lot of fans felt like that, like Jack Black was just playing himself. We know Jack Black in real life, guys, has a beard very much like that, and we know that Lizzo is Lizzo, everyone recognized her immediately, and everyone recognized Jack Black immediately. So what Jon Favreau wanted to do is he wanted to make them less, I guess you could say, apparent of who they really were. Kind of like what they have done before. For example, in The Force Awakens, by the way, we know that J.J. Abrams did quite a number of cameos in there, and within The Force Awakens, we know that everything related to those particular cameos, alright, celebrity cameos, is something that really J.J. really tried to kickstart in the beginning of the sequel trilogy movies. Now, on top of this, though, we know that those characters are made up. They didn't really present themselves as how they are in their daily, day-to-day lives for the most part, right? So, Jon Favreau goes on to elaborate, alright, how he wanted originally basically Jack Black to be a part of a pirate gang or even a droid, he says, in the bar. Something like that, he says. And for Lizzo, we had this mapped out plan to make her into a new type of species we were writing for Mando Season 3 that got scrapped by Kathy. Kathy insisted that we leave them to be very familiar to the fans, of being both icons, and that's something I did not agree with, and I can perhaps understand why fans may have had a problem with that, but I respect Jack Black and Lizzo. They were really fun and driven people to work with. So, before I get to the last piece that Jon Favreau brings up, is that obviously we know that, this was something that took a lot of fans' interest levels down. This big episode that really caused so many problems. And at the end of the day, we know that things like J.J. Abrams, what he did with The Force Awakens, getting back to that real quick about celebrity cameos. Simon Pegg was a great example, and probably what Jon Favreau was aiming for. You have Simon Pegg in The Force Awakens as Unkar Plutt. I don't know if you guys know who Simon Pegg is. He's in the Mission Impossible films with Tom Cruise. He plays Benji. That's pretty much the biggest role he's known for. So that's a perfect example of what a celebrity cameo should be. When you even look at Unkar Plutt, you can kind of tell it's Simon Pegg. You even may have subconsciously thought to yourself, that's Simon Pegg. And when you see those credits roll, you're like, you can connect the dots. So that's what basically Favreau wanted to do with Jack Black and Lizzo. He wanted to make them up. But the cameos, the celebrity cameo concept that we got in the final cut, that was a Kathleen Kennedy idea. But the actors chosen was driven by Jon and Dave. So that's just to be clear. He goes on to elaborate further. Maybe everyone doesn't agree with their acting or their presentation, and that's fine. I'm not sitting here to tell how people to think, but yeah, we had a vision for these fun cameos that was way different than what we presented in the final cut. All I ask from fans is to just respect Jack and Lizzo as people. You can criticize a person's work all you want, just don't make it personal is all. The name of Jack Black's character, Captain Bombardier, dates back to when we wanted to make him into some kind of space pirate, in fact. So, that's interesting. Now, the thing about this, too, I know that the Duchess and Captain Bombardier were two characters that a lot of fans just did not like. Maybe if it appeared in a different type of Star Wars story that may have been suitable, perhaps it would have worked. But I just feel that Jon and Dave's original vision was better. The fact that they wanted to make these characters up very similar, going back to the Unkar Plutt example, that's what Jon Favreau was aiming for. The whole Simon Pegg-esque celebrity cameos, something like that. And you know what? That's perfect. I think that they could have pulled that off if they got their way and if they wrote in good dialogue and if they guided Jack Black and Lizzo correctly. I felt like their acting was just subpar, in my opinion. That's just how I felt. I'm being honest here. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that, but I felt like Jack Black and Lizzo's acting in that scene was just out of place for Star Wars. Maybe it was good for something else, but it just wasn't really suitable for that episode specifically. So, anyways, guys, I'm really intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about Jack Black and Lizzo's, presentation, their acting in this actual episode. What do you guys have to say about that? And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.